It's the ESCtips.com Eurovision Preview Podcast. Join us as we sort this year's contenders from the duds.
Attention, you are now entering a fanboy-free zone.
Hello and welcome to the third ESCtips Eurovision 2016 preview podcast. Today we're doing things a little differently owing to SVT delaying publishing the running order and because I'm flying out to Stockholm on Sunday ready for rehearsals. So today we'll be discussing the whole of semi-final 2 with two fantastic guests. First up we have a familiar face, it's Tobias Larsson. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Have you got your Eurovision gig yet?
No, I don't. I'm actually not going to go to Stockholm. I just concluded that the other day that it's 2 weeks to go and I don't have anyone employing me to go there. And see, I've done it for so many years that this will sound so snobbish, so I apologize to everyone in advance, but it's... I don't enjoy it if I can't work and if I can't work hard. So I need something to do, I need a task, and this year I don't have it, so I'm skipping it. But maybe next year. I always say that next year I will be back with a vengeance, and this is the fourth consecutive year I'm not there. So wait, next year will be terrible when I get there.
Yeah, book your hotel in San Marino, I hear.
Yes.
Now we have a new guest, a last minute change, but in terms of being able to offer straightforward betting opinion, he's a welcome addition to the team. Please welcome Panos Zannettos from Cyprus. Kalimera, Panos.
Kalimera. Hello from the island of love and sun.
So, have you sharpened your claws ready for next Monday?
Well, I have, but I have to pack winter clothes. I have to find them from the depths of my wardrobe, so I still need to do that.
So, getting on to what we're doing today. So instead of discussing each song in turn, our guests will be picking out their highs and lows in each half of semi-final 2, as well as pinpointing any potential shocks, if any. So getting straight into the first half, which runs Latvia, Poland, Switzerland, Israel, Belarus, Serbia, Ireland, Macedonia, Lithuania, and lastly, Australia. We'll start with Panos. How does the first half work for you?
Well, the first half is quite competitive, and if I have to choose a part of a semi that was the most, uncertain, it would be this one. I remember when Ireland came out, it was like the second song. I was quite confident it would make it, which goes to show because now I have no idea. I think it might struggle. I have my certainties, like I'm sure Latvia, Poland, and Australia will make it. Even Lithuania and Serbia, that's five certainties already, let's say. So something's gotta give. So let's see what happens.
Yeah, I was like you. When I heard the Irish song, I thought, yeah, that sounds like a qualifier, albeit Nicky's vocals. But we always thought there'd be enough give in this semi-final for them to qualify. But looking at it now, when I've got my traffic light system, which readers of ESCtips will be familiar with, I've got 5 qualifiers in that first half without Ireland. And even then there's still 1 or 2 ambers. So, yeah, it's really, really confusing. What about you, Tobias?
Well, among these first 10 songs, I have 2 songs that I feel totally confident about making it to the final, and because I feel this entire semi is so open, it can go either way because it will come down so much to the live performances, because so many of the songs are sort of very similar and somewhat interchangeable. You can't tell which song people will go for because they're all pretty much the same. They feel more like a solid pop album than they feel like a Eurovision Song Contest, I feel. So, which is good. I mean, this year's compilation album will have a long life because the songs are quite good and quite pleasant to listen to, but it's so hard to pick out which songs will do well out of this. And out of these first 10 songs, the 2 ones I'm 100% sure they will make the final are Latvia and Australia. Those are the standouts for me. That they are the obvious ones. And then many of the other eight, they can do it, they can make it, but I don't know who's going to eat who. I have a few songs I feel more strongly for, but I'm not 100% sure that they will do better just because I like them better. There is this. But speaking about Ireland, I think I agree with you. I thought it sounded weak when it came out, but I thought it would be good enough on the strength of his name alone and all of that, his backstory. But it just sounds so dated. It's like it doesn't sound dated in a good way. It sounds sort of underproduced somehow. I get frustrated with it because I feel that it could be so much better, and they just they dropped it, and we knew it so early. They had all the time in the world to make it stronger, and they didn't do anything about it. So I just feel that they're not very passionate about it. It feels like they don't really care about it. They just gave us their song and that's it. A bit like the Netherlands last year. So I think Ireland will struggle, but then I don't know. I have a feeling Lithuania will make it. It's definitely not one of my personal favorites. I think it's pretty weak and generic, and like David Lindgren has, moved his career to Lithuania, but it's still, it has this something. It stands out in a way that few other songs do in this first half.
Yeah, I was always quite impressed with the build in this song, but I know speaking to Panos quite regularly, I think we were more concerned with the fact that Donny wants to perform it alone, and what he does alone isn't very good. It looks as if it just needs more production going on just to sell the song. It wouldn't be lost in Melody Festival lineup. It is very Swedish in production, but it just lacks the kind of class and flair that a Melody Festival and production would have. Do you agree, Panos?
Yeah, I do. And it's what Tobias said. It's pretty generic, but so in the context of the final, I wouldn't even consider it. It will get lost. But in the context of the semi-final, yeah, I mean, I'm quite confident that it can make it, especially because if I'm not mistaken, it's quite a friendly semi-final for Lithuania too. I think there's enough there. We know he will get it right. So I think it's the kind of song that again, like his 2012 song, that stands out more and does better in the semi than the final.
Would either of you have any? Although actually, Tobias, I think you've probably made a case for any of the songs if they turn up and they're capable. Are there any songs that actually you would have initially written off, but actually you think could potentially make the cut?
I wouldn't say that I have done it, but I have a feeling that many people are underestimating Poland. Because Poland has a very nice melody line. They have a singer that is sort of stands out in his own way. He doesn't look like any other singer in this lineup, and he doesn't sound like any other singer in this lineup. I think that can carry quite far, given how similar so many of the other songs are. Um, and then there are these songs that I just don't know about. I mean, I personally like Serbia, for instance, and but I don't know if it's good enough. I mean, will it appeal to people? And then I want to think that Calliope, from former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia, I think she's such an excellent performer. But then again, I'm not sure that the song is good enough or instant enough to appeal to people. So it's very hard to judge.
I think Serbia's through just on support alone, but I'd also think the juries will really get behind that song. But I think if there are songs that could potentially shock and cause another country some pain, I would probably go with Macedonia or even Belarus, actually, because Belarus are taking some technology and he's actually come a long way with his vocal. And I always find that the transition to my car just makes me listen to the songs more, and I hear more things and come up with better opinions than just listening to it in the background at home. And I actually don't mind listening to Belarus's song. I don't know about you, Panos. What do you think?
I agree totally. I didn't like it when I saw it in the national final. But, national finals in a few countries, especially in the East, that don't have good sound. But then when I put it in my car, I actually enjoyed it. Okay, I do like songs which have this like pop rock sound. Yeah, but exactly, I'm not writing them off at all. I mean, if I have to choose one of the non-obvious ones from that section, I would choose Belarus. He has a very good voice. But still, we're talking about, coming ninth or 10th
Yeah.
at best. And let's see what they do with the staging. It's Belarus. They could spend millions and come up with the, huge technology and stuff, and it could look over the top and lame and actually do bad to the song. And again, this is a trap, because getting used to a song and liking it more at the beginning is what we do. People who will see it for the first time that night, how how much time would they have to like it? Plus, okay, he's a very good singer, but so it depends. I mean, you can make a case for a couple of them. One is Belarus, the other one, I suppose, is Israel, because okay, I mean, it's not a bad song, but it's not a good song. He has the vocals. Some people, after watching him at the concerts, have upgraded their opinion of Israel because of how he leads it. But is it enough? Israel 2013, she was lifting it, but it wasn't enough. So I think it's very easy at this period before the rehearsals to fall into that trap of starting to doubt everything and trying to find and give chance to things that don't have a chance. I mean, I still think there's more than 50% chance that all of Switzerland, Israel, and Belarus, those three in a row, won't qualify.
Yes.
Especially because I think that the first two, Latvia and Poland, and Serbia afterwards, are a lock for qualification. Still, I still come back to the same conclusion, even if I give some countries some more chance.
Yeah, I think after Switzerland and Israel, if Belarus is high tech and rather than it being tacky high tech, if it's good high tech, it acts as a reset button after Israel. And then likewise, Serbia acts as a reset button on Switzerland, Israel, Belarus, if it is even higher class.
I think that Israel really suffers from this running order also. I must say that I'm a bit puzzled by this because after Latvia, Poland, and Switzerland, especially after Switzerland, it feels like if they had put a more up-tempo song there, that would have given a complete different dynamic to this. It feels like it goes on being very sort of mid-tempo ballady in the beginning. It's like Latvia, Poland, Switzerland, Israel, Belarus is mid-tempo, Serbia is mid-tempo. And then not until Ireland at number 7 comes a song that is actually really up-tempo. And that puzzles me. I feel Israel, for instance, could have done better if it had come after a more up-tempo number. I'm a little bit. It's a little bit strange to me that they put the order this way.
I was going to chip in there when you were talking about Israel and say they could have done better with a different song. But so into the second half, and that now removes Romania. So it now runs from 11: Slovenia, Bulgaria, Denmark, Ukraine, Norway, Georgia, Albania, and ending on Belgium. Tobias, how are you reading this second half?
Well, I have two standouts for myself, like two personal favorites, and then I have one song that is a potential shock qualifier, and then I have this song that I don't like and that I would like to stay, that I would prefer to stay in the semi, but I think will qualify thanks to a brilliant spot in the running order. And so, starting by my favorites, then Ukraine and Bulgaria. They're like, for me, they're the shiny pearls in this semi-final. It's Ukraine is so classy. For me, it's very much like Latvia last year. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but I think that the juries will appreciate it very much.
Yeah.
Especially the juries that are not located in Russia, perhaps. But yeah, I think that one is bound to do very, very well on artistic merit. I don't think it will be a hit in the televote, perhaps, but it's definitely a finalist. And Bulgaria, I feel, if they get that one right, they could be a surprise. I won't say surprise winner at this point. I want to see what they do on stage, but they could end up even like way higher than most people would think, given their past record and everything. So those two are my two personal favorites. And I think Belgium is bound to go through thanks to, again, all this amount of mid-tempo and very radio-friendly, very nicely produced, but very still sort of not outstanding pop songs. And then suddenly Belgium comes with a quite bad song, honestly. I think the chorus is such a letdown, but the tempo feels so welcome at the end. It's just like Lithuania had in 2012 when Donny Montel came in with Love Is Blind, which was also a horrible song, but it was at the right time. It was what everyone needed at the end of the presentation. So I think that one's through. And then the one, I don't think it's either way, but I would hope that Georgia made it through just for the shock value. It would be so much fun to see everyone's reaction, and I think it's fully possible. It's the only song in this semi-final that obviously would appeal to a rock audience. So I'm keeping fingers crossed for Georgia here.
Yeah, I think if Georgia came out the envelopes, I think the betting table would take a big, sharp intake of breath.
And wouldn't that be wonderful?
That's something happens every year that causes us to have a sharp intake of breath. Yeah, looking at this half, I would definitely agree on Bulgaria. I think there is a surprise package there. It's a very likeable song, and it's memorable, even though the hook is in a different language. So it is one of those songs that stays with you quite a long time after being performed. Denmark is sort of wedged between the class of Ukraine and then the excitement of Bulgaria, and they've pretty much sent last year's song again. I'm kind of thinking this year that we're going to get either Norway or Denmark. One of those will make it, and I'm more towards Norway. And that's not to say Norway is brilliant. I think there they've kind of fused two different songs together, and it doesn't really work. It's also quite similar to Euphoria, but it's also very inferior. So Norway's kind of leads into Georgia, Albania, both of which I think are not mainstream enough, which then comes into the bright spark at the end of the final, which is Belgium. Like you, Tobias, I didn't really like this song when it was selected, but I think at the end of this semi-final, it's a real triumph. Like you say, you use the Donny Montel argument. And the last slot of the semi-final has a very good success rate, especially under the jury system. You have to be pretty awful not to qualify from the pimp slot, and I think the only guys that did it are Moyo 3 for Serbia and the toppers for Netherlands.
And they both sort of made an effort not to qualify. I mean,
there was
seriously.
Yes, definitely, that you had to be very bad. What about you, Panos? What are you seeing?
Well, my thoughts are quite similar to your thoughts, guys. My two standouts, in the same way that my two standouts in the first part are Latvia and Australia. My two standouts here are Bulgaria and Ukraine. And I think these four will be the four from this semi that will be top 10 in the final. Bulgaria, I agree with everything you said. They're a bit black or white. They either do not qualify or they go top 5, aren't they? So it's looking more like the doing well scenario this year. It's very nice, fresh, sweet melody. But let's see how they stage it. It is a bit make or break in terms of the staging. Ukraine, exactly. Ukraine is like a combination of Suits from 2012 and Love Injector from last year. I like it personally, but I don't love it. It's like I respect it more than I like it. But I think it will be top 4 with the juries in the final. Plus, it will get a nice televote, and this is Ukraine. Usually they get a nice televote, and the song deserves a semi-decent televote. I mean, it will do better in the juries definitely than the televote. And also another thing about this song is that, it sounds quite Turkish. First time that I heard it, it sounds very Turkish, especially the foreign language bit in the middle. And if I'm not mistaken, she's a Tatar, she's Muslim. They have Turkish roots, and so it's not by coincidence that it sounds Turkish. So, usually I dismiss things like Muslims will vote for Amir because he has a Muslim name, but this, it's actually a sound. It's like Greece sending a song that sounds very Greek, and everybody who is Greek in Europe liking it because it speaks to their taste. And this, it's quite a Turkish sound, so I think there could be a hidden televote in there that people are not expecting. So I do think those two are the ones that really stand out. For me, this section, the second part of the second semi, is the weakest of all the sections across both semis. It really helps Belgium. Bjorkman really knows how to, reward a friend. And if you look back at the last time SVT was doing the running order in 2013, this is what they do towards the end of the semis. Like in semi 1, 2013, the latest song that went top 10 in the final was actually Netherlands from the first part. And in the second semi, it was Norway who was 5 songs from the end. So basically what they do is they put weaker songs and weaker countries towards the end to give them a good chance. So I mean, Belgium, I'm 100% for all the reasons that you guys also mentioned that they will make it. Albania and Georgia, I wouldn't be so fooled by their late position. I mean, they are trying to help them, but they're basically feeler between definite qualifiers for me, Ukraine, Norway, and qualifier Belgium. So, and because they do this thing with the running order to give weaker songs and weaker countries a chance, it doesn't mean that everybody will qualify. Like again, last time SVT did the running order in 2013, if you took the last 3 songs of semi 1 and the last 3 songs of semi 2, 3 of the 6 qualified. Because still, even with the help, weak songs are weak songs. And I think it's quite possible that we get Malta +1 of Iceland and Bosnia from the first semi, and then it can still be just Belgium from the last 3 in this semi. And Denmark, again, I agree. It's just the same song as last year, slightly better maybe, but it's such a competitive semi that we could see second time in a row Denmark not qualifying. Plus, basically Denmark and Ireland have the same song, don't they? I mean, surely only one can make it. And then I suppose the only country that we didn't mention, and there's a reason for that, is Slovenia, because I think it's already so. I keep forgetting Slovenia is in the contest this year. It's so forgettable and like nothing.
Yeah, definitely. Slovenia is the most obvious non-qualifier in this entire semi. That and Switzerland. I'd like to add to that. I agree with everything you say. I say the reason why the weaker songs come so late in the running is not just as noble as the one you pointed out. I think they're just trying to avoid that people change the channel. If they put the weaker songs by the end, people would be like, "Oh, but there's just 3 songs to go." They won't switch off. But if the weak songs come early in the running, people are more likely to, "Oh no, Eurovision is so bad. Let's change." I think that's the reason they keep saving some of the weaker songs for as late as possible in the running.
Yeah, I think you're all spot on. Something kind of came into my head when we were talking about Ukraine, and I was just thinking about the jury support, and I'm also thinking about those countries that are actually very pro-Russia. Do those juries? I'm thinking in the final, not the semi-final. Do those jurors that are pro-Russia punish Ukraine slightly in a way that actually those countries that are pro-Ukraine, like the Baltics, will be very much marking Ukraine up and Russia down? Do we think we'll get an instance of that?
Well, I actually did thought of this and discussed it with a friend, but I think numbers and also cancellation.
So they just cancel each other out. But
so small,
yeah.
are so small that it won't make a difference. Plus, because I think when I said it will do well in juries, I didn't mean just in that part of the world. I think it will do relatively well in juries everywhere. So even if that's the case, I don't think it will make it come from 4th in the juries overall to 10th. It won't make a big difference, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think also that we've seen in recent years that the juries are more independent than you would think in some countries. Like, for instance, if I don't remember completely incorrectly, quite a few countries that were rumored to be unhappy with Conchita Wurst, for instance, their jury still voted for Austria that year, and so you can't tell. I mean, you can't tell in general. The question for me is, since Europe has become more politicized, the contest will get more politicized as well. And for me, it's just a question of time until some uh, some broadcasters will start selecting their juries according to certain criteria, like people who they know will vote according to the country's political standards as well. I think that's very unfortunate if that happens. Like, very, very unfortunate, but it can't be proven either.
No.
So as long as that doesn't happen, I don't think that it will have a huge influence on the voting this year.
Yeah, and the thing is, though, even if you pick a supposedly neutral jury, there's always that element in the back of their minds, really. I don't think you can be totally impartial.
I think that will be a much bigger problem for Russia than for Ukraine,
Oh,
to be
yes.
honest.
Yeah.
I think several I said this on the former podcast as well, but it's worth repeating. I think quite a few countries will consciously or subconsciously keep Russia down in the jury voting, because the broadcasters simply don't want Russia to win, because they don't want Russia to host next year, because of all the problems that would generate. So I think that's a problem for Russia much more than for Ukraine.
Well, having said that, it didn't stop the juries ranking Russia very high last year. But I do see your point. This year they have the excuse to do so as well. I mean, Russia has a kind of song that usually juries anyway by any country they would put this kind of song like at maximum 8, 9, 10. So
Mm.
they also have the reason this year, whereas last year it would have been more difficult. And it's quite interesting. Do you know that, if I'm not mistaken, last year when the juries had Russia, was it second? Third. Okay. When they had Russia third, it was the highest position, the next highest position that the juries had Russia ever was 10th. And that was Dina in 2013, which is quite interesting. I mean, if somebody was to look just at the numbers, they would think, juries hate Russia. Of course, if you look at their songs, you can justify it, but still, it's quite weird, isn't it?
Mm. Definitely.
Right. Moving on to the last bit now, and I deliberately didn't tell you just to keep it random. Now, as regular listeners will know, Tobias has quite a decent record of picking Eurovision winners. So we thought we'd get the guests to pick out potentially 2 or 3 songs that could do well. Starting with Tobias, who are your 2 or 3 that could potentially win?
My 2 or 3 that could potentially win are, let's see, I would say, I will take my personal favorite first, Italy. I really hope and think that Italy could break through. It's one of those songs I feel will do very well. Do you mean the entire contest, or do you mean the semi-final, by the way?
The entire contest.
The entire contest, good. Then I'm on the right track. I think Italy is bound to be one of the top scorers with the juries, because it's such a sophisticated, wonderful little pop song, especially for the few of us who really enjoy Italian pop music. And it's so appealing, and I think it can break through enough in the televote as well. Then France, but then I have this big, big, big question mark, and that is that I don't feel that it has been. I'm yet to see a live performance that has convinced me. It needs to be very, very light and still very perfect in vocals, and it has been neither nor so far. But if they manage to get that together, then France is definitely a contender for victory. And the third one I'd pick is um mm, I'd like to say Russia for the fairness of the contest. In a way, I wouldn't love to have the contest in Moscow next year. I wouldn't, but it would be good for the contest in a way, if Russia could win it, because then there wouldn't be the talk of the political bias. There wouldn't be oh no, Russia can't win because Europe hates them. It would be a good thing on many levels, but I'm not wishing for it. So I'll say Bulgaria instead. Bulgaria is the one that could come rushing up from nowhere, I think.
Okay then. Panos, what about you?
How many am I allowed to choose? Three.
Three.
Well, I do think that there's a possibility that the top of the market this year is slightly diluted, slightly wrong. I think France could be a red herring there, And my problem with him isn't even his live. It's just that I really think the song is not good enough. I mean, I think it has a cap of something like 9th in the final if they're lucky. And I really cannot, not even by numbers, not even by my gut feeling, I cannot imagine it higher unless I see like a Farid's box or a sound artist or something. Like when it first came out, I was out at a bar, and even without listening to it, I just went on Betfair and got something like 30-40 euros at 50-1. And then when I came home and listened to the song, I was like, that's gonna go to 200-1. And it's okay, it was only 30-40 euros that I put on. And look at it now. So like, and I still don't get it. I mean, it perplexes me a lot. Russia, again, its position in the top is more justifiable, but it really needs to be top 3, top 4 with the juries, I guess, judging by history to win. And can it do that? I'm not sure. I think Russia could end up being 3rd overall, something like that. So if you think on those lines, it means that the winner could be somewhere else. So if I had to choose from the leaders in the odds, I would actually say Sweden and Australia. I think Sweden is by far the most contemporary song, great song. If it was Justin Bieber's song or anybody else's, it would be number 1 all over the world. But I think that song is amazing. It's just being overlooked maybe by the fan community because it's too real, for the real world. It's not a Eurovision bubble song. So I would definitely say Sweden. And I would also say Australia, my second one from the leaders. I know that its chorus is a bit underdeveloped, but that's a problem with many songs this year. Plus, this really hasn't stopped songs from charting in the real world, and it has that sound. Many non-fans friends that I have who listen to the top 10, top 15 songs of the betting, they pick out Sweden and Australia, and I think Australia will also do really well both with the televote, Western televote, and juries. I think the juries will respect it. It is undue light in some kind of way. Yeah, so from the leaders, I would choose those two. And if I had to choose like a couple from the ones who are more far behind, I would also actually mention Bulgaria too, for all the reasons mentioned before. But I would also mention Netherlands. If it's one of those years, like 2011, where where there is no agreement between the jury and the televote, and maybe you get a compromise winner or something like that. I wouldn't discount Netherlands with a good stage show.
There we go. You'll have to wait for my 3 in the next show, which was actually recorded yesterday, and actually quite a lot of opinions align from yesterday. But anyway, that is it from us. Our automatic qualifier, which was recorded yesterday, will be published on Friday evening. Both Panos and I will be in Stockholm following rehearsals from Monday. I've just had a message through saying that press passes won't be available until something like 9 o'clock Monday morning, which means there'll be a queue a mile long, which means we'll probably miss the first rehearsal, so we may be a little bit late to you. The ESCtips chat room will also be open on Monday, and it's the best place to go for level-headed betting chat. If you want to follow us on Twitter, make sure you follow at Mr_Zannettos, at Topson Helsinki, and for me it's at ESCtips_Gavster. So all that remains is to thank our guests. Thanks Panos and Tobias.
Thank you for having.
And thank you for listening. Until next time, goodbye.
ESCtips.com will return with another show soon. In the meantime, meantime, show us some love by following us and sharing this podcast with your Facebook and Twitter friends.